Well, here we are back on the installation of the cowling again. I'm pretty happy with where the cowling joins the fuselage. I'm happy with the line of the cowl, that it comes down at about the correct angle. I'm installing these pieces just to hold the front of the cowl together. I think eventually, let's just move over here a bit. I think eventually, a lot of this is going to be cut off, if not all of it, cut back to like here somewhere. But I need the front of the cowl held together. So I've got the back part of the cowl in the right place. I've got the front of it almost held together. I'm just about to drill this temporary piece of plate on here so that side of the cowl's held together. The fit of the cowl on this side over here, I'm fairly happy with the fit right the way along that hinge, that's where the hinge is going to go. I'm happy with the cowl at the back. There's a little bit of a gap here, which you may or may not be able to see properly, but I don't care, because that's going to be cut off. It's going to be cut off just at the front of these bumps. So that bit that's got a bit of a gap there, I don't really care. The rest of it looks pretty good. Looks very good. Over the other side, let's get you into position first. Down, I don't know whether you can make it out, just in front of this piece of tape, there's a square tube there that I'm meant to put a fastener. Here through where my finger is, a fastener will go in through there and connect to that square tube. Well, the square tube, I think, is about 2 or 3 millimeters at the most too long. So I just need to trim that off a little bit, and this piece of cowl where it's bulged a little bit will fit in a lot better if you line up the straight edge about here, which you probably still can't see very well. I'd say that that piece of square tubing is just a little bit long. If it was a little bit shorter, this would fit a lot nicer. So that's going to be one of the tasks before we go too much further, is to trim that off and to install that piece of material at the front of the cowl. That piece over there. I'll leave. On. So where we want to drill a hole through the cowl is pretty much in the centre of this, what's going to be a square, and the same here. All right, let's have a look at what we've got with the bottom cowl removed. This is the right-hand side of the aeroplane. This is just a little bit too long. It's just a little bit proud of where it should be. So I'm going to take a couple of mils off here, and I might try and angle it a little bit well, probably take a little bit more off the front than the back, and take a little bit more off the bottom than the top. So I will angle that slightly. Eventually, these things will get riveted in there. That will fit inside the tube, believe it or not, like that, so that this is more or less flush with the end of the tube. A rivet will go through the tube, through that thing, which is just a piece of square bar that's threaded. It's threaded part the way in anyway, maybe to here. And that's what holds the lower cowl on, that. And the hinge, piece of hinge that goes along here. Yeah, there's 4 of these things, one for each of these spots. So this has got a 1032 thread in it, so it's just a regular 316 bolt, 1032 bolt. That goes up in there, and a single rivet holds it up there as well. Yeah, so it's a piece of cake. And the same in that one, and the same up there at the other side of the top of the cowl. Okay, that sort of nails the cowl to the fuselage fairly well. And the hinge piece will nail the 2 cowls together, so that it becomes one piece. Okay, before I start fitting the cowls, I actually have to fit. These are the vertical rods that hold the cowl the right distance away from the bottom of the firewall, the right distance below the aeroplane, if you like. The cowls protrude a tiny bit below the aeroplane. This is them there, but in order to get them ready to install, I've obviously drilled all the holes and everything else, and they line up perfectly with the bits they're meant to mount on. But on this end, we've got this little block which has to be riveted to the square tube. So, and it's tapped on the end for a bolt. I've just simply put a washer in there, and I actually extended the threads down a little bit deeper, and I put a bolt and a big penny washer on there so that it can't slide in, because I had a hell of a time trying to drill this. Yeah, so there we go. The penny washer just stops it from going any further into the tube. Then I was able to drill the hole so that I can install this solid piece with a rivet, and I'm going to use these solid rivets. I just brought you along because we haven't seen any installation of rivets, and on this aeroplane, on the Murphy Renegade, there are very, very, very few solid rivets used. I've used a few in certain places, but yeah, they call out very few solid rivets, and I was just going to take advantage of the situation and show you how to install a solid rivet, especially a big. These are 532, 5/32 diameter, and they're really quite long. They're quite a big rivet. So having the tools to drive that rivet, you know, not everybody's going to have those tools. But anyway, okay, this blue tool, I think it's called a C-frame tool. It was made by Avery Enterprises, which were around when I was building my RV6. This is a remnant of the RV6 build. All I've got here is just, I want to pack this so that it's the same. Let's have a look at this. So it's the same height as this snap here, and that is pretty much directly opposite. So we can sit that there, You really only use this, well, you can use this tool for this big blue tool for all sorts of things. But I'm using it in this application to set that rivet. Now remember, the rivet should be sticking up by 2 rivet diameters. Yeah, that's the correct length to have sticking out. This is a tiny bit short. It's a bit less, but it doesn't matter because this is not a structural part. It's purely to hold that that piece of square stock inside this square tube, and it can do that standing on its head. So where it can't do it is if you crank like crazy on this bolt, it will eventually pull that through. It'll break something if it was able to. So that goes there. This part of the tool is purely to set the rivet. You bash the daylights out of this end, and this smaller end touches the rivet and causes it to set. So let's have a look. Yeah, so that's going to go down there. We're going to give it a whack with this fairly big hammer. As a matter of fact, we're going to give it a couple of whacks, and that will set the rivet. I'll try and do that without cutting my microphone cord off, because my wireless microphone doesn't work with this particular camera. Okay, so there we go. And whack number 1. Yep. And maybe a third one for good measure. I don't know if you can see that. It probably needs maybe one more whack, but it's working. It's doing its thing. Matter of fact, let's give it another whack. What the hell? All it really has to do, its task in life, is to stop the rivet from falling out, which will stop the square stock from falling out. So it doesn't have much of a job. So it doesn't have to be set exactly perfectly. That's much better. Okay, we just do the other one, which is the same thing. All right, remember those parts I just did? This is them here. I've angled them a little bit because the cowl actually contacts on a curve. So that's why I've shaped them a little bit on the end. I marked them before I went too much further, before I took them off. One with 1 dot to line up with that 1 dot, and one with 2 dots to line up with this one, so I know where they came from. So I'll just fit them back on here now, or shortly. But their task is to support the bottom of the lower cowl. That'll get riveted on or bolted on there. Bring that down. There's the part we just riveted in. There's our rivet. So a bolt, eventually a bolt will come up from the bottom through the cowl and thread into here to hold the bottom of the cowl up and in the right place. Now okay, these pieces have been installed. They're completely installed now. They've got the right nylock nuts on the other side of these bolts, the penny washers to support the load on them on the bolts. Yeah, cut the bit out of the middle here so I can still get my air filter in there in the future. And this one's complete as well. So no excuses now. We just need to fit that engine cowl. And that's this is the lower cowl. Yeah, this is the bottom attach points of the lower cowl. One here next to the drill, one over here, and the 2 side ones, one here and one on the other side. my next step is to drill a relatively small hole through the centre of each of those points, and then offer up the I'll offer up the cowl to the fuselage, and just see if I can pick up those holes through the small hole I've just drilled to make sure I've got it lined up. Open up these holes, and then I can bolt this on. That's it, fixed. The back of the cowl will then be fixed to the fuselage. There's no, it's pretty much, the top cowl's pretty much fixed now. It's got its attachments points, but the bottom one doesn't. That's about to happen in the next couple of minutes. So you can stand by and watch if you like. Told you it was a small hole. Well, that went perfectly. This bolt is actually going through and picking up that the cross tube. The one on the other side is just as good. It picked up perfectly as well. And those two, the left-hand one, that one lines up pretty much exactly, and the other ones are probably just a little bit to the outboard. Yeah, the hole in the cowl needs to go that way, probably 1 or 2 millimeters. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy. Very happy indeed, actually. Looks good. We're getting closer. Just so that we've got a nice, neat, even rivet line on our hinge. The hinges are meant to be attached on a 1-inch spacing, and this, one of these and one of those, yeah, on the hinge is 1 inch. This is 1/2 inch and that's 1/2 inch. So if all of our rivets are on that line and they're all the same distance away from the edge, then we'll have a nice neat rivet line on the outside. Now I'm just doing this by eye to line it up in the middle of this loop, but to get it down the middle of the hinge, I'm using this fence. It's just a piece of angle that I've clamped onto the drill press. Yeah, we just line it up by eye. That's about midway, and away we go. Next one. Yeah, you hopefully get the picture. Okay, all the holes have been drilled in the hinge in both sides. The 2 pieces of hinge. They're held together with a hinge pin, which is this. This hinge material comes in, by the foot or the metre or whatever. There's a hinge pin that you just push in. I'll turn you around this way. Actually, I'll turn that around this way a little bit more. There's the 2 pieces of hinge. One will be riveted to the upper cowl, one will be riveted to the lower cowl. Yeah, it's in 2 pieces. You can see there. The hinge pin will then slide in and hold the 2 together. Look at that. Beautiful. You just sharpen the hinge pin on one end a little bit, just to so that it's not square. And there it is, pretty much together. There's a few different varieties of hinge. This is one of the cheaper varieties, I suppose. There's one that's probably, there's, like, yeah, there's, obviously bigger and smaller and what have you. But there's also one, when this is manufactured, it's just a flat piece of metal, and these hoops are rolled. Obviously this is put through a machine that rolls these hoops on. You can also get it extruded, where it comes out as one piece. Obviously it's quite a bit stronger than this manufactured one. But this will do. This will hold the two cowls together quite well. But yeah, and it'll also act as a hinge to some extent. If the cowls are not perfect, it'll take up a little bit of imperfection in the manufacture of the cowls. So anyway, so now it's deburr. Where I drilled all those holes, you might be able to see burrs on there. You wouldn't want to be doing that. You'd cut yourself to pieces. So I'll deburr all those holes now. Only takes a second. And then this is ready to go. You might remember this tool from a previous video. Yeah, has a crank handle basically on the end. And it's just more or less a countersink cutter. This is what I use for deburring. I'll show you a couple of holes. Where are we? There's the hole. Oh, this is fun, trying to drive. And you just turn it a couple of turns. You're not trying to countersink the hole. You're just trying to take the burrs or the chips off where the drill broke through. And I can do that all day and not cut myself. And this one, you might be able to see the chips on there already. And it's just a couple of turns. You don't crank it. No, there's another couple. Yep, there you go. No burrs left on that hole. There you are, just another 900 holes to go. Just 900 holes from true happiness.